Now, just calm down. Just take it easy. You act though something terrible has happened.
This is terrible. This is awful. This is the worst thing that ever happened in radio.
Well, don't get excited about it. It's a mere trifle. Where's the body?
Right over here. Oh, poor Van Crimps.
How long's he been dead?
I don't know. Only yesterday.
What's that paper he's got in his hand?
Looks like a piece of script to me.
Well, let me read it. Columbia Workshop presents... What's a Columbia Workshop?
Oh, bunch of fellas.
Columbia Workshop presents program number 2326 by Corwin. Who's Corwin?
Oh, he's a guy.
Let's see. Presents a new mystery melodrama entitled Murder in Studio One, written and directed by Norman Corwin, starring distinguished actress, stage, radio, and screen, Ruth Gordon, the role of Cameo Klopp. Imagine Ruth Gordon as Cameo Klopp.
Who's Cameo Klopp?
That's me, you idiot. Haven't you ever heard of Inspector Cameo Klopp?
Well, no, you see, I'm just a maintenance man in the studio building.
Maintenance man and no maintenance man. Don't you realize I'm the expert who solved the Purple Opal murder? And the Mimsy Bargrove mystery, and the strange case of Green Fedora, and the incident of the checkered pajamas?
Well, no, ma'am,
Well, I am, and to be perfectly frank, I shouldn't be fooling around with a small potato of a case like this.
Well, I should say hot potato, ma'am, considering who Van Crimps was. Oh, poor Van Crimps.
Who was Van Crimps?
Why, the most popular radio announcer in the country.
He was? I'll make a note of that. For heaven's sakes, why isn't my secretary here to take notes? Where is everybody? Why am I always first on the scene of the crime, even before the coroner? Hereafter, I'm going to take more time. It's undignified for a detective famous as I to show up for anybody else. That's not the way they do it in the movies.
No, I agree as how it isn't, but poor Van Crimps, he was...
All I really wanted to be left alone to finish my research on the lepidopterology of ancient Persia and play the horses. But no. Every fortnight or two, somebody turns up with a new mystery for me to unravel. It's ridiculous. I solved enough mysteries to start a radio series called Ellery Klopp. Yeah, and cases that Philo Crothers, Diblo, Shapiro, Fucon Moto got to baffle by. They were dizzier than moths in a lighthouse before I got through with them. It's a good thing I just...
Hey, boss, I've been looking all over for you. Big murder case just broke.
Yeah, it's about time you showed up. This Mr. Slope works around here. This is Minnie, my secretary, never works around anywhere.
Slope.
Well, that's a big murder case you say just broke.
Guy named Van Crimp was found murdered in a radio station. They've been calling you on the phone ever since.
You wouldn't mean the murder in Studio One, would you?
Yeah, that's it. How'd you know?
What studio do you suppose this is?
Is this Studio One? The joke's on me. That's a hot one. Where's the stiff?
On the dead side of the studio, right here.
Dead side? This is screams. Why do they call it the dead side?
Because sound is dead on that side, of course.
Make a note of that, Minnie.
Hokey doke. That ain't all that's dead on that side, huh? What a gig. I'll have to give that to Winchell.
Well, here's the body, ma'am. We were such a nice fellow, Van.
Well. So I rush up here to tell you there's a murder in their studio. The joke's on me. That's a laugh, all right.
Minnie, stop enjoying yourself long enough to find out what's delaying Lieutenant O'Hanrahan and the coroner. Ring up headquarters and ask when they... Nah, never mind. Here they are now.
Well, that's Cameo now. Must have arrived here before we did.
The elementary deduction, my dear Lieutenant O'Hanrahan.
Miss Klopp, this is Dr. Lionel Bumbridge, the coroner.
How do you do?
Miss Minerva Hammersmith, Miss Klopp's secretary.
How do you do?
Doc.
And this is Gu Chong, everybody. He's the specialist who solved the Congressional Investigation Committee murder and the incident of the unmitigated bore.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Lieutenant, why did you call me on this case if you got Mr. Gu Chow? Are you auditioning, detective?
Well, I know Gu Chow's on the case as a consultant. Ain't that right, Gu?
I am. He who keeps the moon from wolves is ready to catch luck if ever the heavens do fall.
Shall I make a note of that, Cameo?
Nah, don't bother. Lieutenant, I'm resigning from the Van Crimp case effective immediately.
He who resigns from case before investigation puts plow before oxen and claws where it does not itch.
What kind of double talk you call that?
Ah, that's strictly from Chinese hunger.
Oh, please don't leave the case, Cameo. You don't want crime to triumph, do you?
Crime don't pay.
Poor Van Crimp. Only last Monday he was
All
saying to me-
right, I'll stick, but it's against my principles.
Good, that's the stuff, Cameo. That's the spirit.
Yeah, well, let's get down to business. What's that paper sticking out of Van Crimp's side pocket?
Thing. Got typing on it.
It looks like a commercial announcement.
Well, let me see it, please. Don't forget to remember to insist on the name Fudgy Cream for a real, honest-to-goodness, creamy, delicious, wholesome, tempting, tangy, healthful, different app, mellow, rich, lusciously nourished, and crunchy.
He was supposed to read that tonight at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, he's better off this way. Now, Dr. Bumbridge, you've been poking around there long enough. You determined the cause of death?
Oddly enough, the victim was not killed violently. Very strange.
Yeah, it is strange.
The evidence points to strangulation, but there isn't a mark of any kind to indicate the manner of strangulation.
Let me make a note of that.
Okay, doke.
I take it, Doctor. You completed your examination?
Except for an autopsy.
You're then through for the present?
Yes, ma'am.
But you haven't used your stethoscope to examine the corpse, Dr. Bumbridge. Why is that?
Surely, Miss Klopp, you're joking.
Make a note of that, Minnie. I am not joking, Doctor.
But you know that the coroner never examines stethoscopically. When I arrive, it is not to examine a patient, but a corpse.
Don't hand me platitudes at a time like this, sir. Once again, may I suggest you use your stethoscope,
This is preposterous.
specifically in the area of the duodenum.
Absolute nonsense. The man is dead.
Why'd you do as you told, you jerk?
Just leave this to me, Minnie. I'll take care of the smart repartee. You stick to your shorthand.
Okay, doke. Just trying to help.
And besides, it's jerk, not joik.
Very well. If it will humor you any, Miss Klopp, I will listen to his pulse and respiration, which ceased at least 2 hours ago.
I only yesterday, Van Crimp told me he was going to do the commercial for Miracle Beer. He says to me, Lammy says...
Well, Dr. Bumbridge, what do you hear?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, nothing.
Yeah, well, then why are you so pale?
I am not well, I guess.
Yeah, give me that stethoscope. I'll listen myself. Just as I thought. Lieutenant, listen to this.
No. I can't believe it.
Well, what is it? Don't keep us on tenterhook.
Why, it's a quartet. They're singing music.
What kind of music?
The Boogly Woogly Piggy.
Are they swinging it?
Would the Honorable Mr. Chong care to listen?
Thank you so much. City! He who hear music out of wood should lock barn door after barn is stolen.
Are you kidding? Perhaps the estimable Mr. Chong can offer a theory at this point.
Gu Chong jumped to no hasty conclusion. He who jumped before he leaped beat bush without catching birds.
Give over, Goo. Let me listen.
Have you an explanation for this, Cameo?
Simple. No, they're singing Ida. Ida, sweet as apple.
Come away from them minutes. Now, it's obvious Van Crimp was murdered by the administration of a dose of the deadly poison Insidium.
Yeah, but how can you tell without an autopsy?
I'm coming to that, Dr. Bumbridge, and when I get there, you'll do well to have an explanation for your strange reporter not hearing anything.
But
Yes, now Insidium is a newly discovered poison, the effect of which is to choke off the oxygen supply of the blood, while at the same time producing a mood of profound cynicism in the victim.
Cynicism?
Yeah, you please observe Van Crimp died with a sneer in his face.
Why, so he did. Poor...
But how does that explain the music coming from the duodenum?
Simple. Insidium is a radioactive substance. It gathers in the duodenum and sets up a sort of receiving station for radio waves and other electrical impulses. Acts like a crystal set, you might say.
She knows her stuff, don't she, boys?
Miss Klopp, this poison you speak of is unknown to medical science. Now, how do you...
Quite so, Doctor, because there are only 8 persons in this country who studied it, and I am one of them. I just finished writing a monograph on the subject.
Cameo, I gotta hand it to you. You've solved the mystery.
Yeah, now all we have to do is find a murderer.
Yeah, you certainly... What's that?
In the meantime, Lieutenant, I suggest you place Dr. Bumbridge under arrest for suspicious conduct.
Now, wait a minute.
Poor Van Crimp.
And also detain Mr. Slope, who's been mourning poor Van Crimp just a little too hard to suit me.
Me too.
But I'm only the studio maintenance man. I was...
Also, any others who profess to have known Van Crimp intimately.
everybody. Am I in the right studio? Is this Studio One?
Yeah, what do you want here?
Why, I have an appointment to see Van Crimp, the announcer, and by golly, I see I'm just on time, too.
What's your name?
You mean to say you don't know me? My name is Owen Repel, Thompson tenor, singing nightly at Earl's Place, Route 22, where frolics begin. No cover, no men. And I've got a lot of very flashy dramatic routines. Young Soper will go anywhere.
Yeah, well, where do you think you're going now?
Well, that's a good question. If you ask me, I'm going places. But probably what you mean is getting down to seriousness. Where am I going now?
Right out on your ear.
As a matter of fact, Van Crimp is a great big booster of mine, and really a happy doodle dandy kind of a chap.
That's what he said.
He came out to Earl's Place to get some soft-shell crabs that they feature along next to my singing, and he told me not to fail when I was in town next time to drop in on him. So here I am.
You're a good friend of Van Crimp's, are you?
Am I a good friend of his? Why, say, I'd give him the shirt right off my back. Why, he's way up there with the best of them. He's right at the top. He's what I call a crackerjack boy. Why, there's nobody like him.
You mean, he's out of this world?
Right. Right as rain.
Do you, recognize who this is laying on the floor?
Why, absolutely, absent-tip. Good old Van Crimp. Tough break. By the way, speaking of breaks, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you folks here in the studio a real break. One of the best breaks you've ever had. I see that you folks need a little cheering up, and I'm the guy to do it. Always glad to be of service to my fellow man. I love a smile. I tell you, folks, a smile is a great thing to remember. Do you remember that old song? A smile will take you well on the bar.
All right, do your smiling outside. Come on, let's
Now,
do
wait a
get
minute,
lost,
folks.
huh?
You're making a big mistake. Madam, you've probably got one good ear.
Yeah, and you're a pain in it. Gone home now.
I can tell you have a dandy ear. Now, get the boy and girl angle of this song. All right, here we go. And glad to do it, too. It was at the...
All right, come on, Bing, outside. No, my ears, I've never heard such a thing.
What? All right. Now we're rid of him, I suggest we all go about our business. There are a number of people I want to see.
Noted.
In the meantime, I suggest Van Crimp be given a decent autopsy and burial so he'll stop receiving Boogly Woogly Piggy and Ida and other programs on the same wavelength. Ida, sweet as apple cider, sweeter than oregano. In the silvery moonlight, Ida, I love you, Ida, sweet I do.
Well, boss, here's the evidence you wanted.
Let's see. Now, there were 3 different programs, either rehearsing or broadcasting, while Van Crimp was in Studio 1 on the afternoon of the 7th.
The Science Talk by Professor Worthington Trummock.
Adventures of Zazza the Zealous.
And the Rowdy Dowdy Rhythm Girl.
And each must be investigated. In addition, I must see the sponsor of Van Crimp's Snap and Zip variety show, Mr. Plimsoll. I understand he quarreled with Van Crimp the day before he was murdered.
Sure, Plimsoll. His wife died of ptomaine poisoning last year.
Very curious. Put that down, too. Now, first we must see Professor Trummock.
But I tell you, Miss Klopp, I only met the man once.
And that was at a poker game?
Why, yes, to be sure. It was a poker game at his home in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, that's where I live. The land of the free and the home of the Dodgers. When you see our boys next year?
You lost heavily to Van Crimp that night?
Yes, that's true.
And you promised to pay up before November 1st?
Yes,
You also lost a telephone bet in the World Series to him?
yes,
Now, Professor Trummock, you are a scientist, and you lecture on the radio.
yes.
You also happen to be one of the 8 persons in this country who knows the secret of insidium.
Oh, yes, but I assure
That,
you...
Professor, will be all for the present. Well, Miss Fothergill, your stories are very imaginative in a macabre sort of a way, aren't they? Yes. Ben Crimp once told you publicly that he thought your stories stank. So what? And you replied he'd feel sorry one day for what he said. You also called him an overbearing snob and a stuffed shirt and an exhibitionist who ought to be put out of circulation. He was. So what? You accused him of standing around waiting for people to ask for his autograph. He'd rather sign his autograph than you. That's what I'm asking you. Keep on asking. That's what I intend to do. Listen here, Clough. I'll sue you for disturbing my peace of mind. I'm a busy woman. I'll sue you, too, you little squirt sitting there taking notes of everything I say. You hear me? Yeah. So what?
I was Van Crimp's girl.
And you sing on the Rowdy Dowdy Rhythm Girls program at Sing?
Yes, I do.
You saw him in the studio the day of...
No, I didn't. I didn't see him. I tell you, I didn't.
She says she's been. But you saw him the night before.
Yes. We had a party. I was at his home. He was very happy about winning a bet that day. Later, he and I went down to Kelly's Tavern for a drink. He was very boisterous, and I quarreled with him.
You quarreled?
No, it wasn't what you suspect. It was only...
Was he sober?
Yes, he never drank.
That's so for now, sister. What about that, Mr. Primstone?
No, I'm surprised that you should ask such a question, Miss Cliff. I have always enjoyed the most cordial relations with my employees and all those members of my wonderful little family who represent Society Selected Snaps and Zips Manufacturing Company on the app. And that includes good old Van Crimp, too. May he rest in peace, poor lad.
But you had sharp words with him.
Oh, I am always surprising my employees with little surprises. Now you take this here. The folks are expecting a bonus this year, but I have got something up my sleeve far better than a bonus. And when they get in step with this thing, they are going to be prepped up good and plenty over. It's what we call the friendly Christmas plan. It's very simple. All an employee has to do is save his slips that he is issued. That is, of course, providing that he has been with the firm for a minimum of 19 years. And if the slips are okay by the foreman and the division superintendent, they are then put through the verifier and checked by any competent notary public. Then they are issued to the board, and the employee simply awaits his turn. This is a matter of, I would say about 10 days or so.
Go on, this is positively spine-chilling.
Yes, I'm glad you approve it. And then he receives his application pay. By the way, there's just one thing to remember here, Mr. You might make a mental note of it. It's a very important detail. That is, they must be sure to sign their name on both sides. Did you get that? And then it's simply a matter of a thorough medical examination, and if the employee passes, he's entitled to A, or choice of a half a day off, or B, 1.5% discount on articles purchased at the factory commissary. It may seem a little radical to the more conservative businessmen, but I have found that it always pays to search for methods of establishing warmer relationship between myself and my employees.
There are worse crimes than murder. Everybody hear me?
All the suspects is inside, including Lieutenant O'Hanrahan and the district attorney, if you want to call them suspects.
Stranger things have happened.
You also got Mr. Elwin Rappel. What a smack. He's like a cartoon in the New Yorker. He's like a rare etching by Dumier.
Very well. Never mind the cultural allusions. Let's go in and clear up this mystery.
Okay, boss. This way.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry to upset your plans for the evening, but there's a little matter of a murder to clear up, and then you can all go home. All but one. Because the murderer is in this room.
Stop trembling, Mr. Plimsoll. You make the rest of the guests nervous.
Why, I'm afraid I've swallowed my cigar, that's all.
Oh, that's okay. They say ashes is good for the teeth.
If you don't mind, Miss Hammersmith, I'll conduct this investigation.
Okay, so just trying to help.
If I can be of any help, I'd be mighty glad to do it, too. Glad to do it. Now, for instance, I have another song that has the idea...
No. You just sit quiet and continue to pick your teeth. Now, you, Mr. Sloat, you looked upon Van Crimp almost as a son, didn't you?
I loved the boy. Whenever he was in trouble,
You know he had a habit of touching the point of his pencil to his tongue when writing?
Yes, I often urged him to correct that habit. I told him it was unhygienic.
It certainly was. It may or may not come as a surprise to you to learn that Van Crimp died as a result of touching to his tongue a pencil whose point has been dipped in insidium.
Why,
Yes?
Oh.
Well, now, maybe you're right. Now, Miss Pink.
No, I tell you, I didn't have anything to do with it.
All right, take it easy, Cookie. All she said was, now, Miss Pinckney.
Before Van Crimp went upstairs to Studio One, he was seen signing an autograph for a lot of girls in the lobby of the station.
Yes.
And you were looking on very jealously.
I was furious with him. He was flirting with a girl.
He sure was, a mile a minute.
And you, Miss Pinckney, already angry with him because of his behavior at Kelly's Tavern in Brooklyn the night before, you turned on your heel and stomped out.
She turned on her heel, all right.
No editorial comments, please. Is that true, what I just said, Miss Pinckney?
Yes.
Very well. Now, I am ready to reveal the murderer. Take notes on everything I say, Minnie.
Okey-doke.
The identity of the murderer of Cornelius Van Crimp is Minerva Hammersmith.
Are you kidding?
Minnie, a little while ago when I remarked to Miss Pinckney that Van Crimp was flirting with autograph seekers on the day of his death, you remarked that he was.
For coin of phrase, so what?
So, what were you doing there?
Observing how the other half lives.
Yeah, I thought so. It was to you I dictated my monograph on insidium. Therefore, you knew the properties of the poison.
Strictly your property as far as I'm concerned.
And you let slip the opinion that Van Crimp was a heel.
Check.
He lived in Brooklyn where you lived all your life, and it's known he rooted for the Yankees in the recent World Series, as witness his argument with Rappel and his wager with Frummer.
Go on, you're getting hot.
Van Crimp celebrated on the night of October 6th at Kelly's Tavern. He was delighted because that afternoon the Dodgers had lost to the Yankees when their catcher dropped a third strike on what should have been the last play of the game.
Well, go on. This is strangely fascinating.
Yeah, you were there at the tavern that night.
How do you know that?
Well, it was your only night off in a month.
You're telling me.
Next day, you showed up to work with a new style matchbook from the tavern. You, a loyal Dodger fan, were infuriated because Van Crimp, also a native of Brooklyn, had turned traitor to the team. So next day,
This has gone far enough. Yes, I murdered Van Crimp. I picked up Drummond's pencil, which he left in the restaurant, and dipped it in a jigger of insidium, and then asked Van Crimp for his autograph, and he put it to his tongue, as I seen him do once.
you did.
Yeah, I murdered him, and I'll do it again, too.
You mean if you meet Van Crimp in some other life?
Anytime, anywhere, including the Bronx.
Minnie, why did you do this terrible thing?
Well, boss, I don't mind a Brooklyn citizen rooting for the Yankees. That's bad enough. But I says live and let live. That's my motto.
Yeah, with one notable exception.
But insults is another thing. You want to know what Van Crimp said that night at the tavern? He says, them Dodgers are bush leaguers with illusions of grandeur. Yes, he did. And he says, may they go back to the second division where they belong and never rear their ugly heads again. And then he says, and get this, may all their children drop third strikes.
Oh, man. Oh, man, if you only told me.
Well, boss, that's when my gorge begins to rise. He says this also. He says the only way to explain the Dodgers winning the pennant this year is Sunspot. Oh, Sunspot. And him, a resident of Brooklyn. And then he says, if it's another 21 years before Brooklyn finishes in the first division, which it will be at least, that'll be too soon for me, he says. Curse them bums, he says. They never was no good, and they never will be. You wouldn't believe it, but that's what he says.
Oh, the man was a monster.
Well, boss, I knew then that Van Crimp was a traitor to his country and to mankind. I knew then he'd have to go. It was a far, far better thing I'd done for Brooklyn.
Minnie. Oh, Minnie, I understand and I sympathize. Believe me, it is with reluctance and a heavy heart I turn you over to the district attorney and the grand jury, but I saw me duty and I've done it.
Okay, boss, I understand. No hard feelings. I guess nobody can ever pull the perfect crime, but I come near it.
Yeah, and I feel certain that no jury in the world will convict you, except possibly in St. Louis, which fortunately has no jurisdiction in this case. Officer Hanrahan, the prisoner is yours.
I am honored to take so distinguished a prisoner into my custody.
Thanks, Flatfoot. Well, things is going to be different next year. You wait and see.
Yeah, Minnie. Yeah. Things is going to be different next year.
You have been listening to the Columbia Workshop's presentation of Murder in Studio One, written and directed by Norman Corwin as program number 23 in the cycle 26 by Corwin, and starring Ruth Gordon, distinguished actress of radio, stage, and screen, in the role of Cameo Klopp. The role of Minerva Hammersmith, the Brooklyn Patriot, was played by Minerva Pius. And the characters of Elwyn Rappel and Mr. Plimsoll were created and performed by Edward Mayhoff. Others in the cast were Alan Drake as Slope, Kenneth Delmar as Dr. Bumbridge, Frank Lovejoy as Lieutenant O'Hanrahan, Peter Gu Chong as Gu Chong, Esther Sundergaard as Father Gill, Ann Shepard as Miss Pinckney, and Norman Ober as Professor Thrummer. Music was arranged and conducted by Alexander Semler, and the vocalists were the Symphonettes and the Four Clubmen. MacDonald Nye engineered. Columbia Workshop will return next week this same time with program number 24 of 26 by Corwin. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.